the Prime Minister and his choice cabinet ministers are busy partying up in D.C. with family, lobbyists, and big Liberal donors, we're seeing a job crisis in Western Canada. The Prime Minister seems too busy trying to get a pat on the head from President Obama and his anti-oil activists to bother standing up for Canadian jobs. Why is the Prime Minister using this state visit as an opportunity to shine in the limelight and give special access to his lobbyist friends and their clients instead of standing up for Canadian interests?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, former Conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney said that the most important foreign policy priority for a Canadian Prime Minister is to have a personal relationship with the President of the United States. Mr. Speaker, this is a great week for Canada-U.S. relations. The previous Conservative Prime Minister didn't understand the importance of building those types of relationships, and he failed to defend Canada's interests in Washington. That was bad for jobs. That was bad for growth. Canadians are proud now to have a Prime Minister who understands the importance of that relationship and who is defending Canada's interests proudly in Washington.
Member for Portage
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says that market access is important to the government, but it looks like lobbyist access to officials in Ottawa and Washington is more important than any access. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government is doing everything they can to put barriers in the way of Canadian oil exports. While Liberals are putting barriers in the way, the U.S. is lifting bans on exports. Liberals are putting bans on exports. Why are the Liberals saying one thing and doing the absolute opposite and blocking the opportunity for Canadian oil to get to market, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, market access for Canadian energy is important. Our government understands that. But for 10 years, we had a Conservative government that failed to actually get any market access for Canadian energy, any pipeline to Tidewater, no success there, because, Mr. Speaker, they failed to defend Canadian interests in Washington. They didn't have the relationships. They failed to work with Aboriginal and First Nations leaders in Canada. They did not meet the premiers to work together on this, and they called environmentalists eco-terrorists. Mr. Speaker, we are not going to repeat the follies of the previous government. We're going to get it done.
The Honourable Member for Portage Lisgar.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the fact is, under our government, 1.25 million barrels per day more of oil is getting to market than before 2005. Mr. Speaker, while the Liberals are banning exports, putting roadblocks in the way of pipelines and introducing a carbon tax, the U.S. government is doing the exact opposite. They're building pipelines, they're lifting bans, and they are selling oil, and there's no carbon tax. Why is the Liberal government doing everything they can to make Canadian oil uncompetitive and destroying the Canadian oil industry?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, again, this has been an exceptional week for Canada-U.S. relations. The Conservatives in their bitterness are playing politics this week, when in fact Canadians are proud to have a government, a Prime Minister, and ministers who are defending their interests in Washington. The Conservatives should stop playing politics. They should unite with Canadians who are proud of our Prime Minister this week, who's doing such an exceptional job defending Canadian interests and values in Washington.